We were going to talk about the Civic Center that night.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, we went to the meeting to hear all about the Civic Center. The Civic Center was not discussed at all. The hockey rink was. Okay, when you're sitting quietly, you can hear what people are saying around you, and what they're saying, what they were saying that night is, what are we doing here? They're not telling us where the money's going to come from,
Yep.
what's going to be in the Civic Center, where it's going to be, is it going to cost the taxpayers money? None of those questions were answered. We were there to find out about the Civic Center. We ended up having a tirade for an hour about an ice rink. I don't have any problems with an ice rink. It's fine. But that isn't what I was there for.
See, my question is just what you're saying, okay?
What?
And some of these people that are sitting over here, we've talked about this, and I've talked it with my husband, okay? The Civic Center, it's something, I want to know where the monies are coming from.
Right.
I want to know how it's going to support itself. And if they have things in place that if it doesn't support itself, is it going to come back on the taxpayers? Those are my concerns.
And my other concern is, don't have a meeting publicized in the paper and on the media that you are going to discuss. The word discuss means you and I talk. It doesn't mean I talk and you don't get to say anything. Okay, I don't think a soul in that room, and I'm speaking for probably 60, 70 people, realized that when they went there, they could not ask a question.
Okay,
or
when you
talk.
went there, where did you go?
We went to the, where?
Mason City
Mason City Library that night.
So it was a discussion,
Yeah.
It was a
Well,
listen
no,
to
it wasn't a discussion. It was a lecture.
but it was supposed to be a
It was
discussion,
supposed
and
to
what
be,
you're saying.
we both said to each other, we wanted to go up, all of us, and find out what, because there's really very little about the Civic Center. It's not in the paper a lot, it's not on TV a lot, it's just kind of out there. And so we went up. I thought a discussion to me means they told us all about what it's all about. And then we said, gee, where is it going to be? Or, gee, is that going to raise my taxes? No, we could not ask any questions, and they didn't have to answer any questions.
Well, the other thing too was a 3-minute time limit was put on people to get up and speak. And one gentleman who had been on the committee to go to other communities and look at whether or not it was something that might be of value for this community got up to speak, and he had information to give, but he was cut off after 3 minutes. And we never found out anything, and probably, I would guess, 80–90% of the people that were there to speak in favor of it were from the Hockey Association. They really got behind the whole thing. But
Did you feel that they had more of a voice?
well,
they're
just
the only-
because
they were the
they
only
were the
ones.
only ones who knew the one thing
Right.
that was going to go in. There was no one representing any other areas of what was going to happen there. And the man who did have some of that information wasn't allowed to speak more than 3 minutes. And you couldn't ask him questions.
Well, see, this is a council member, and to have it on the agenda, then I have a right as a council person to represent your questions and to get your
But
answers.
see, we weren't told that in advance.
Yeah,
I mean, Jeff Marsters has been our councilman. If they would have said, take your questions to Jeff Marsters, have them written out, please drop them off, send them in the mail. There's no reason we wouldn't have done that. I know Jeff Marsters well. No one said that.
Well, I know you're talking to somebody
Yeah.
that thought they could speak one night and all of a sudden they said I couldn't. They said it was on the agenda and I get up there and they say, it's not on the agenda.
And in some of that, it's, we visited with Alec Kuhn, and I told him the same thing. If you're gonna run, you have got to convince me that you're gonna stop some of what's happening. And it's almost like a dictatorship, and we live in America.
I agree with you. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I mean, we have the right to ask questions.
Yes, you do.
I'm asking you
Yes, you do.
questions. Okay. We are the citizens who elect the city council. I'm confused as to why now we no longer can ask any questions.
And
That-
get an answer.
and get an
Get
answer.
an answer.
We can ask-
That's
That's
why
it.
I'm running, because if you can get it on the agenda, which I can do as a city council person, I can get it on the agenda, and we will get the answers, you
We
know?
have to, because
Because, you
there's
know,
a lot of people unhappy right now, and they're
Before I
wandering
would,
around.
before I would give my vote on something, I want to know, you know, especially for something as big as what we're talking about, you know, where is the money coming for this? You know, how is it going to sustain itself? And if it falls through that it doesn't work out like it's supposed to, is it going to fall on the taxpayers? You, the taxpayers, myself, have a right to the answers to these questions. Me standing here tonight, I can give you the answers if I go look for them, but I mean, I can't go to everybody's house and say, this is what I found out. But as a council person, you know, you have to push for those things, and I'm not a yes person. I'm not in with any certain group or whatever. I am my own person. And the questions that you're asking are the very ones that I want answers to. And before I would vote on anything, I want to know where the most important thing is, I want to know if it's going to cost the taxpayers money. That's a big one, because everybody's concerned about that.
Well, a civic center is not, it's not $100,000 or $200,000 event. We're probably talking millions. I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to have an ice rink and a performing arts thing,
Mhm.
and I don't know what the third thing was, we're talking lots of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's strange that this is such a big deal, but and maybe someone here knows far more about it than I do, but we don't read about it. They don't want to talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't understand that.
See, I don't either, and that's why I'm standing here tonight.
Yeah.
The reason I'm standing here tonight is because I feel like the citizens of Mason City are not being heard. You get a select group that get these ideas together, do what they want to do, and then it's like, well, this is what we're going to do. It gets pushed on us. Oh, I think it needs to be where it needs to stop. You need to get, you know, the questions that you want answered. You deserve answers. Everybody deserves answers. And to keep pushing and pushing and not getting those answers, it's upsetting a lot of people. And that's why I'm standing here, because somebody's got to have a voice.
Well, and I've been to other listening posts before, and I guess a listening post means, I think as Sandy said, that we listened, and everybody listens, but there's dialogue. Because if you go up and express yourself and say, well, I'd like to know what it costs, and nobody is going to say, well, we don't have, and yes, the person did go up and explain it at first, but not for any length of time. And why couldn't the task force have been there? They could have answered questions. Some of the task force was there that I talked to afterwards, because I knew who was on it, and they wouldn't answer my questions. To me, it's one big secret.
And this is it. It's got to quit being secrets. We as a public have a right to know what's going on, because they're talking about our city, they're talking about our community, and coming up and saying, well, this is what we plan. That's fine, if that's what you plan, but you better make sure that we're all on the same page. Because it's not fair to come up and say, well, we've come up with this plan and this is what we're going to do. I don't think that's fair. I've always said, when it comes to this community center or civic center, whatever you want to call it, it is a big enough issue that I think it should be brought before the citizens of Mason City to vote on. That's my opinion. I mean, something this big, because you're not talking a couple $100,000. You know, you're talking a lot more than that, and I think that to be responsible for that kind of money that's going to be spent, I think every one of us have a right to say yes or no. That is what I believe. I think it should be brought before the city.
Brookmeyer loaded the task force with people who were in favor of building the multi-purpose center.
Mm-hmm.
He did that on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Lay themselves land and furniture. carpet,
Mm-hmm.
things that would go inside. Sonny Ono's on that task force, he wants to promote wrestling matches,
Mm-hmm.
but he wants the city to build the facility so he can do it and sell the tickets. So he picked his people carefully
Mm-hmm.
that he put on that committee.
That's why I'm saying I think it's important that all this get out, where people feel like it's being a secret. You should never have to feel like, when you're working with something as big as this especially, that you're left in the dark. I, as a citizen and someone that would be on the council, these are things that I would bring forth as far as, you know what? People have a right to know what we're doing here. I mean, what is the plan for this? Where is the money coming from? And they've got to answer them. I mean, I just can't see where it continues the way that it is. That's why people are so upset. They want to change. They want somebody that's going to stand up for them and say, listen, this isn't right. Everybody has a right to know where we're going with this and what we're doing with this.
Well, you have some affluent people in this community whose kids play hockey, and they want to build a nice hockey rink. They got a hockey rink at the fairgrounds already,
Mm-hmm.
so you're gonna have some duplicity. The Music Man Square has been used on several occasions for community meetings. When senators have come here and politicians, they use that facility to speak. And it works. So by building this thing, you're gonna have some duplicity in doing so. When the Music Man Square wanted to build a 250-seat auditorium right there next to the old antique mall, Nyack is against it. Because they have a 2,000 or 1,200 seat auditorium out at Nyack, which they just spent $2 million remodeling. They didn't want that auditorium downtown. Even though it would only seat 250 people, it would be a lot more applicable to the community needs. But there was a big uproar, but the chamber was against it. Robin Anderson, I think her name is. She didn't want it. So now everybody's got to drive out there. Could have been right downtown.
Okay, standing here and listening to all this, you know, the secretiveness of it, and people have their groups that, you know, they pick out their whatever. Standing here, all I can pledge to you is I will do my best for the common people of Mason City, and I don't know if that's the right word or not, but those of us.
It's the right word.
Hmm?
It's the right word.
Well, I'm just saying, I myself will do my very best to make sure your voices are represented on that council. And that's all I can say, that's all I can pledge to you, is I will do my very best for your voices to be heard and things that need to be told to the public, and I feel they need to be told to the public, I will push that they be told to the public. That's all I can pledge to you. I'm one person, you know, and I'm willing to stand up and say, you know what, what's going on here isn't right. It's not fair. People don't feel like they're being treated fairly, and I want to represent those people.
Sandy,
Mm-hmm.
if you go back and look at the records of the city council, you'll see that every time Turnquist, Solberg, and Hickey vote, they vote together for whatever Bookmeyer wants. We had Marsters, Nelson, and Weaver as a counterbalance to that.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's gone. So they'll hold sway over this city, do anything they want. With one more vote, they have 4 votes. It's critical that you get to that table. It's critical.
I agree with that. I agree 100%. I agree with that 100%. I'm going to tell you something. If I thought, let's say Bookmeyer had a good thought, or a good thing.
Yeah, then you gotta go with it.
Okay, I'm not gonna sit there and say, well, because you ticked me off last night, I'm not gonna vote for you.
No.
This is beyond that, okay?
Right.
But some of this has become so personal that I think some of them are losing sight that it's not just about that table that's up front in that building. It's not just about that table. It's about everybody that is on the other side of that table that's being hurt by some of this.
Thank